What's up, peeps? Today's going to be very different. Just want to send a shout out to all the people that came to the Get Your Hustle On webinar last night. It's pretty exciting. It went by fast. Actually, I did a live stream and let people ask questions, and boy, 72 questions within an hour. It was hot. Let's just say it was hot. All right, now down to today's business. Well, before I get to that, I will be, since the Get Your Hustle On webinar was so successful, I will be doing another one next Monday, 9 p.m. There were some people who signed up who couldn't make it. You will get invites. So I'll be doing another one, and you can check it out. All right, now down to business. The title of this video is How Not to Get Screwed at Storage Auctions. Now, this is coming from a strange place. Someone sent this to me. Let me go ahead and look up his name. Make sure I give credit where credit is due. Hold on, it's coming up. It should be coming up. What's taking so long? There we go. All right. Got this on Twitter. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Storage Auction G. Let's see. Okay, found it. My boy Hemi sent this to me. Your opinion, please, Mr. Glendon, since you were mentioned. And it took me to this link that you now see on, well, it's been on the screen for a second. But I'm going to go through this whole thing for you. Collusion and fraud and the grand down the drain, question mark. Now, this is at Storage Auction Forums. I haven't been there in like 3 months, and I'll give you the short story of what happened. Now, there were some people who were making some, Glendon's about Ebonics, and that's ghetto, and blah, blah, blah. Shit that I took as racist, and I addressed it as such, and I cussed everyone out there who thought that shit was cool. And as you can understand, people were not happy that I had the unadmittable gall to actually challenge people about some bullshit like that. So they weren't happy. I will say this, Storage Auction Forums, there are a lot of people there who are on this YouTube channel. There's a lot of good people there, and there are some wank-ass suckers, punks, perpetrators, and straight-up whiners. You're not successful in life not because the business is hard. It's because you're a punk. You're a scared little bitch. Okay, I got that off my chest. Now down to business. I'm going to read this mess to you. Well, yesterday totally sucked. Dunn and I again decided to divide. I'm going to take divide as you went on separate auction trails, which is probably the smartest thing I've seen in this post. He took Q-Smart, U-Store, while I took the local popular auctioneer. His crowds were minimal, while mine were over 100 by 8:30 a.m. I bid on a few but never won a unit. Both auctions were sort of paralleling each other. I took a break from my auctions to stop and see my bro and drop off some musician's equipment for his buddy to evaluate. What is up with this dropping off shit to evaluate? You can get the prices of 99.8% of the stuff you get out of a storage unit from Google and eBay. The majority of stuff you're going to get out of a unit, you don't need to go have freaking evaluated. That's some TV bullshit, okay? It's for TV. You can do that shit yourself and sell it very quickly. Okay, I'm coming down. Back. I'm back here. While they are done, Colin said he had a unit that might run more than he had, but looked to be good. I was 5 minutes away and headed over. When I got there, he said he got it for $1,000. Okay, pause. Two people on two different storage auction trails, and it doesn't look like they have $1,500 between them. That is one of the reasons you're not successful. You don't have enough damn money. That's just my opinion. I waited outside the facility while he was inside paying. One of the regulars, our well, was there and said Dunn may get hosed as Q-Smart was selling this unit for the tenant on consignment. I walked to the door and Dunn had just paid cash and was getting paper shoved in front of him with 3 women saying, just sign this and this and we'll be done. He questioned them and they said he was not signing an agreement with Q-Smart, but with the tenant. It appears they let the tenant go and remove personal items and the like, then put it up for auction. At no time was Dunn or the other gentleman who was also duped told beforehand this information. When Dunn balked, the gal who runs the auction said, oh yes, I should have told everybody, huh? While the store manager said that was something new we're doing. After a time, we went to the unit to begin to clean out. We're going to hit pause right here. Okay, first of all, going back that paragraph, as he was coming in, the local whale knew that it was a unit going up on consignment. I have bought units like this, and this is one of the things about when you're a real storage auction person and you build your network. I had storage property managers call me and say, hey, I have a tenant in trouble, and you can talk to them. And I was like, look, I'll pay your bill, but I get everything. There's no going in the unit to get your personals out because, in your mind, personals are that gold Rolex and the other shit that I would really need. So it happens, and it's been happening. Now, some people in the crowd knew, some people didn't. Remember what I've told you time and time again? Pay attention to what's going on. Because, see, the whole title of this, and I'll read it again, collusion, fraud, and the grand down the drain. Okay, there was no collusion and there was no fraud. Did he get a bad deal? Yep. Why did he get a bad deal? Wasn't paying fucking attention. Because clearly, if he were to go ahead and try to sue these people, they're going to they could bring in probably 10 people who heard the announcements. Or they're just like, well, I said it. It's not my fault. He was not paying attention. Okay, let's go ahead and continue reading on. The doors go up, and I started in and I found that all the tubes were arranged to show value, when in fact 90% were either broken or incomplete. Behind the second door, it was a 10 by 20, it was a particle board desk with a nice industrial shredder, finished sewing machine on it, while right behind it was bags of trash and more broken items. Dunn was devastated. About this time, the other gentleman walked up and said the locker was also staged. He spent $1,600. Both guys were grumbling and talking about fraud when I said just go up and take it up with the manager. They did. I spent the next 10 minutes shoving things back in, shut the doors, locked my husband's truck, and went to the office. The manager was frustrated, as were both guys. She said and they would need to talk with the district manager. Both parties agreed to put their locks from the facility on the unit so neither could enter without the other in attendance. Pause. If there wasn't this whisper of, hey, collusion, whatever, or, you would just, two people had some bad units. Now, let's talk about staging the units and propping stuff up, because there are people who think that every storage facility out there is just going out staging all this stuff. The truth of the matter is a lot of storage facilities make a lot of money from their basic business renting units to people. The money that they recover from storage auctions, which is at an all-time high, is minuscule to the money that they lose. Okay? But they can write it off. These places make plenty of money. A lot of the owners are rich. Mom and pops, maybe some, stage stuff, maybe some don't. But this whole staging thing is, from my experience, not the large part of the industry. Or I wouldn't have been in it damn near 10 years. Okay. Part of what I'm getting to is, if it was good enough to bid that high on, you must have saw something, and what you saw probably wasn't that good. But going on. I left and hooked up with my caravan. Never did land a unit, but this time of year my heart wasn't in it. Later in the afternoon, after not hearing from the district manager, you're not going to hear from him, you signed papers. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped a very salient point. Never, ever sign a contract that you don't understand. Let me say it again for the people in the back. Never, ever sign a contract that you don't understand. Because the minute he signed those papers, his ass was grass, and he has absolutely no recourse other than the bitch and call, and I was treated unfairly. And are you going to make it right? Because I was a dumbass and I spent $1,000 on a busted unit and he spent $1,600. You need to make us whole. You need to be right. Pfft. You sign papers, fool. Don't ever sign a contract. If he had not signed those papers, he would have more than a leg to stand on and probably could have gotten the money back. Do you hear what I'm saying? But, I've addressed these issues on these videos, but so many people are hating that they rather go out and blow $1,000 or more because they don't like me. Hey, you lose the money while my folks keep making money. Yes, I have to put that in there. Everybody that's listening to this video, give it a thumbs up because y'all are shit. All right, now back to this sorry, sad tale. Later in the afternoon, after not hearing from the district manager, I called the corporate headquarters in Pennsylvania. Explained the situation, was put on hold, and ultimately transferred, you guessed it, to the store manager here in this. I'm not even going to read that. Essentially, nothing's going to happen. Dunn called, left another message, and an hour later he called back and said all sales are final. Of course, you signed papers, fool! All right, now they talk about them planning on taking the loss. We could probably squeak $500 to $600 out of the unit. I will not simply lay down for this. This should have been never. They should have never told certain individuals about consignment and not the entire crowd. And they certainly should have not said we were not going to have a contract with them, but with the tenant. Shady practice, and one that I don't think lasts without major rethinking. Okay, the contract you sign. Many storage facilities do that because if the tenant is not in the true lien status where they're about to sell their stuff, they can't sell the tenant stuff without the tenant saying okay. Now that would be some collusion. So actually that's proper. I have signed probably 25, maybe 30 contracts like that, because essentially what happens is the storage facility says, hey, this tenant's in trouble. They want to liquidate their stuff. You are not dealing with the storage facility. You're dealing with the tenant. They may actually conduct the taking of the lock off, but every unit I got like that was great. But I know what I'm doing. I'm sorry. Was that conceited? Yes, it was. And hey, I'm going to laugh at this silly shit. Okay, now this is where it gets really, really interesting. As I told you, I went out and cussed some folks out, and they're not really too happy with me over there. And essentially, there was no collusion and there was no fraud. You sign papers. As long as you sign those papers, you're agreeing to whatever terms they set for. So take those two words out your mind. But this is where it gets funny. People are going in there. Here's a guy, Kobe. He's like, this story real sucks, but if you can get 500-600, it might not be as bad setup as you think. I've bought stage units and made some money, and some I did. And they're going on and on and on, and people are kind of like, yeah, but most folks are not like really going in. But see, this is where it gets really good. Store me, a newbie. I feel bad for you because of the hassles you went through. It's a shame the locker didn't pay off like your hubby wanted. As a newbie, you can chalk it up to one of the tough lessons learned when you were doing this stuff. If in no time at all, you'll look back and laugh at it. I've made mistakes at auctions that were many times more expensive than yours and got over it. You will as well. You don't let those sharks see you frown. Stay up in their face with a smile. However, on the other hand, while you're doing all the bidding on the locker that was not showing 2 to 3 times bid value, let's face it, you or your hubby signed the paperwork from previous tenant and you entered into an agreement at that point. The option to back out was when the paperwork was presented to you, not after you found out that the locker was not going to return what you liked it to. I imagine if the locker paid off or did slightly better than breaking even, the story would have been different here in that case. And just in case you think other facility owners do not know about your purchase, think again. The sharks are spread it and the facility owners do network together. Causing waves might make it worse for you down the line. A regular could be your friend. A regular could be friends with a facility manager that was friends with the original facility manager and make your auction buying life hell. Just food for thought. I just will not let it get to you. Okay, that was level-headed. It wasn't condescending. It wasn't mean. And it's the truth. It's pretty much what I said. So, people are going on and on. Alex, remember your pain, and then people talking about if I went by the guidelines, you would get up and never get the locker, and it goes on. Then they're just going back and forth, and it happens. I've said it. One of the worst you ever bought. I lost $1,000, damn near a decade ago. So it goes on and goes on and on. And let's see. Here's someone jumping on Stormy. I think you missed the point here. This is not a question of locker paying off or not paying off. That's some bullshit right there. If this locker had paid off, this forum wouldn't have happened. So it is a question of the locker paying off. What happened here is a conspiracy between the tenant and the property manager. There was no conspiracy. There was none. You bought a bad unit. The buyer has every right to file charges. That part's true, but you will get nowhere since you signed papers. People don't seem to understand that. They're thinking, yeah, I signed papers, but I can still sue. Go right ahead. Your attorney's going to ask for 15 G's large just to represent you. It ain't worth it. So they're jumping on her. Then here comes Stormy. With all due respect, I did miss the point. I'm extremely pragmatic about this. If you were to step back and look at it unemotionally, I would think you would understand what I'm saying. Rocky and hubby were rolling the dice all the way to the point that they found out the locker was not going to pay off. When they found out the locker wasn't going to pay off, they cried foul. The time to back out of the deal was when they were presented with the paperwork for the previous tenant before they did a closer inspection of the locker, period. Okay, she's making a lot of sense, but anyone that makes sense over here, they tend to jump on, if it's not the woe with me. And most people like going in, oh, here's someone else who's jumping on her. You weren't there and you had no idea how it went down. And furthermore, you don't know either of us. So quit trying to paint us with your broad brush. Dunn did question it over and over before approaching the locker. And I'm like, this is the one who posted. You don't know any of us. Now, common sense wasn't working. Now, this is where it gets funny. The girl's giving it back to him. I have to ask, where'd you get your law degree? And they're just going back. Let's see. You look like you left out some vital information in your original post. Dunn did question over before ever approaching the locker. He was told the tenant was not allowed to go in and remove anything but personal items, photos, documents. Strange how that happens. And, they go on, and they're giving her the business. But let me find the post that really got him to send it to me. Because they're just going back and... Oh, here's something else. Here's the one who posted. We're probably going to take a $700 loss on the unit. I pray that I never become as crass and arrogant as unscrupulous as some of those regulars. That's why big fish win and little fish lose. Their asses, that is. Okay, now this is where it gets funny. I have not posted on this site since 2011. It's March of 2012, so it's like 3 months or something. So here comes Money for Nothing, the main player. Glendon Cameron, is that you? If not, could it be his twin? Sounds like you're full of hot air blaming everything on Rocky and Dunn. Sure, they may have made a mistake or two. Who doesn't? Hindsight is 2020. But from her descriptions of the events, they were scammed. Hey, Money for Nothing, you're a dumbass. They weren't scammed, they were stupid. There's a huge difference. They both start with S, but one happens to you and one you are. Now, I know it may be hard for you to decipher, but they weren't scammed. Rocky is still upset about this. We have been fortunate and have not run in this, blah, blah, blah. Now, why did my name get pulled in this conversation? I have not been on that site. I went in, I put my challenge, and all the little bitches all say, it's impossible. We can't do it. We can't do it. We can't do it. Well, how dare you offer $5,000? I can't get that money because it's too hard. So, I left it alone. And this is where Stormy comes back. Sorry, I didn't see where anyone was scammed. But hey, we can agree to disagree, can't we? And that thing about Mr. Glendon, thank you! To be compared to a successful individual like him is quite a compliment. It warms my heart you thought of both of us in the same manner. I fell out. And they're going on. You can read this mess, but... And they're just going in. And look, they're getting on a store meeting and say, not sure who you are, man, but for someone that just registered 6 days ago, you're coming on strong. Don't know if it's here to help you gain your clicks on your signature, auction listing pages, or what. You may be an old hand at this or talk a good game. Not sure which. I respect Moving Man's thoughts, rants, or raised 100 times more than yours currently. We'll see if that changes. And see, this is why, people often are like, why don't you show up at the forums? I don't show up at the forums because there's so much bitching and whining. Did you hear me when I put up my video in 2009 saying when I lost $1,000 on the unit that I thought was good? Did you hear me say it looked good? It looked good. I made a mistake, a costly mistake. But you know what? I got back up on the horse and went out a few days later and got some killer units. That's how this game goes. Every unit that you buy is not promised to you to be a great unit. And until you get a certain level of expertise, You are gonna run into this. And I mean, they're like really going in, and the fact that they thought it was me, like, just to the folks at storageauctionforums.com, if I have something to say, and I'm putting it out here on YouTube, because I went in there and told one little bitch, fuck you. If I got something to say, I will say it under my real name that I am registered on that forum. I'm not like you little scared little bitches who won't show your face, don't know who you are. You come in huffing and puffing. I've been in the business 10 years. I prove that shit. It's so easy to say, but you can't prove it. And I have learned that success breeds a lot of contempt, because there's a lot of folks who've been in the game 10, 15 years and wasn't as successful in those 10 to 15 years as I was in one. So that kind of brings a lot of hate, which I fully embrace and love. Because, you guys on YouTube here, I love you guys, because there's so many of you who send me these stories. I bought the books. I did this. I felt like a regular. I'm not making as much money, but I avoided a lot of mistakes that I see other new people making because they don't have your information. That is validation. Validation. So continue to sit and bitch and whine how unfair life is. I've lost 10 grand in a month on units, but bought one that made me 80. So this is how this game is played. This is how it's played. You're not going to go out and get great units cheap. It's not going to happen. You got to put on your big boy pants, your big girl panties, and do this, or stay the fuck at home. Because I'm seeing something. There's people's like, hey, I got time to post because I'm not out there. I'm like, just be straight up with you. If I was still in the game, you would never see me online because I'd be too damn busy. When I was in the game, I was working 6 to 7 freaking days a week. Going to auctions, putting stuff on eBay, putting stuff on Craigslist, listing stuff, cleaning stuff, fixing stuff, moving stuff, talking to people, networking, selling. I didn't have time for this whiny shit. But maybe if you would spend more time being about it, being goal driven, being money driven, versus just I'm going to sit here and whine. Because see, this is the thing. Life is not fair. It has never been fair. It never will be fair. And if you're going to set your expectations on life being fair, you will be forever disappointed. Forever. It's not. Now, what happened at the storage facility was, I wasn't there. I'm going to say, why did some people know and why didn't some people know? That would be my first question. Because if it had been me and I bought that unit and then they come with some papers, I'm like, wait a minute, you did not announce that before I bid on the unit. I'm not signing. I'm not paying. If you ban me, I'll sue. That would have been my response, because at that moment, I would have been like, something's up. But hey, you signed those papers, so your ass is grass on that deal. It's too late to bitch about it. But for those of you who like this channel and appreciate the information, this is how it went for Georgia. I never ran into any crap like that. Typically, if it was a setup unit, or as they call it, a build-up unit, I knew they would announce it. And, that whole thing about papers being presented, some people knew and some people didn't know. I'm a little cloudy on that. I'm like, why did some people know? Why didn't the guy who bought the unit know? And once again, the staging stuff, I have seen people buy units full of boxes that weren't staged. People store boxes. That's why, and this is in the book, if you can get close and trip and fall into the unit, then come out. If those boxes move really quick, they're empty. I was famous for flopping in units. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Because you never know. You never know. And if you don't take what some would call an unfair advantage, then you're always going to be bitching and whining about the unfairness of the world because you didn't. Hey, I learned the storage auction trail, it's a rough place. It's going to put some hair on your chest, whether you're a man or woman. And truly, the hardened, the convicted, the people who really know how to make money are going to be the ones that are going to survive and do well. And the ones who are kind of weak at heart and wear peak panties, whether they're male or female, are pretty much going to lose out. I'm telling you, and also, if you don't have that type of money to lose, don't bid it. If you can't lose what's in your pocket to bid, and that's going to impact you paying your bills, guess what? you don't need to be out there. You don't, because this is what I'm reading between the lines. We lost 80 to 90% of our buying capital on a loser unit. And the reason my heart wasn't in it is because I can't afford to spend this money. You know, those of you who came to the webinar last night and we're just talking about things. There was one question. It's like, I have no money. What do I do? For you folks, you got to scratch up some loot. You got to get some operating capital. You can't go out there with 20. You can't ball out with $20. You can't. It's not going to happen. Let that fantasy go. All right. So everybody that listens to this, I'm going to put the links there, and I'm going to put some interesting pictures here. And you can go ahead and read it for yourself. Some of you may agree to Rocky and her hubby or whatever. Some may agree with Store. But I'm telling you, do not sign papers that you don't understand and you wasn't made aware of that stuff before the auction happened. That was the mistake. Because once you sign those papers, I got your ass. There ain't nothing you can do. Go ahead and sue. It's like, well, you signed papers. And they're like, well, I didn't read it, Your Honor. I'm like, you dumbass for not reading. And that's the deal. So this is how you don't lose your ass at a storage auction. Number one, don't spend more money than you can afford to lose. Because, as I've said since 2009, I said in 2010, I said in 2011, I'm going to say it in 2012, you will buy some loser units. Yes, you're going to buy units, they're going to look good, and you're not going to make the money you expect. It's going to happen. And on the flip side, you're going to buy units that you didn't really expect to do that well on, and you're going to make a grip. See, there are a lot of people that want life to be fair. Life isn't fair, nor should it be, and that's the beauty of life. Because if life was fair, you would do an hour's work and get paid for an hour's work. When life being unfair, you can do an hour's work and feel like you did 20, or you could do an hour's work and get paid like you did 20. Because life's not fair. That whole unfair and fairness business only applies when you feel like you got hoodwinked, bamboozled, snookered, and led astray. At that point, I got suckered. It ain't fair. But if you walk on the street and then there's $2,000 on the street and you look to your left and you look to your right and you scoop it up and you put it in your pocket, you ain't crying about that someone lost $2,000 and life ain't fair. You like, hey, we gonna party over here, party over there. I'm gonna get myself some nice shit. So let that fairness stuff go. All right, this is Glendon Cameron. We're making money with storage unit auctions.